and the stars of the film, Teddy Lee and Tiffany Chu. Well, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Teddy, Tiffany, I'm going to start with a question for the two of you. Your just sort of sibling dynamic in the movie is just incredible. Like, you really capture that sort of push-pull relationship that so many siblings have, where kind of all in one breath you're like teasing each other, understanding each other, being sympathetic with each other. How did that come about? I mean, did you have any time to rehearse before you were shooting the movie?
Yeah, sorry, I kept realizing I pointed it at you. You know what, you go ahead.
So we had 5 weeks of rehearsal prior to shooting. So we spent pretty much every day together. I'm an only child, so definitely like having that time spent together was really important. A lot of our chemistry, we besides rehearsing, we also did a lot of improv, just with each other. And then he grew up in LA, so he showed me around Koreatown.
Yeah, I don't know, we just hung out a lot, had a good time. I don't know what else to say. It was just.
Well, tell me about what.
We basically closed ourselves. Like, we had the house that the house that we shot in. We had it rented out for a month before we started shooting, and basically we just holed ourselves up in there for. Like, we didn't sleep there because we weren't allowed to, but we basically hung out there from like 9 a.m. to like 7 p.m. Every day for about a month. Even if we weren't doing anything at all, even if I was like taking a nap, we just like kind of forced it to happen. And I'm glad it worked. I think it did. I don't know.
But tell me about your the tour of Tiffany. What did you show Tiffany in Chinatown? Where did you take her?
Oh, Korea.
Oh, Korea. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to do. I knew I was going to do that all day.
I don't know. I just because Tiffany's actually not Korean. She's Taiwanese, and there are definitely I don't know, things that I felt like were important for her to sort of get a feel of, like how Korean families interact with each other. So we went to a lot of food courts in K-Town, K-Town Plaza, K-Town Galleria. We hung out at a lot of those spots, and we just kind of watched these families just kind of just be, you know, in their natural habitats, just eating amongst themselves. Yeah, I mean, I always told Tiffany, like, I think one of the most interesting things about Koreans is the way that they eat. It's very, very what do you call it? Like, unconscious. It's not very like they're not very conscious about like how they eat. They're eating with their mouths open, like talking really loudly. You know, table manners isn't really a thing. So, you know, I thought it was like important that she saw that, and yeah.
And was that useful for you, Tiffany?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, because I feel like, you know, as much as work that you put in, the more you can immerse yourself into the actual environment, it's only going to help.
And Alex, I'd seen an interview with Justin Chon where he'd said how after the success of his first film, the way it was received, he didn't take that as like a signal to make a kind of a bigger film, but to actually make a film that was sort of more intimate and more specific. As a producer, how did he maybe voice that to you, and how did you feel about that being his decision and the way he wanted to respond in making a second film?
As a producer, I mean, working with Justin is great. I loved it because, especially for him, the reason why he made this film is, you know, he was on a show in New York and he was working on another project to make, and then during that time, you know, he didn't want to waste it. He wanted to, you know, write another movie, direct another movie, and when we first talked about what kind of ideas he had, he really wanted to talk about the sibling dynamic, since he has a sister, and I have two sisters too, so like that dynamic is great, especially seeing that sort of. I have older and younger sisters, so I kind of can take it from both ways. But the story he wanted to tell, I really connected with it, and yeah, when he told me early, was at 2018 about it, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then once we start on something, it's like we went full throttle.
And Alan, you've worked on a lot of films, and can you tell me about what to you is maybe special or different about Justin as a filmmaker? What is it that you like about working with him?
I mean, I hate to simplify it, but from the way I generally put it is Justin is a filmmaker, which a lot of people make films. Doesn't necessarily, and I mean it sounds bad, but doesn't necessarily mean you're a filmmaker. Like he encapsulates the process, not just he's not a gun for hire to come in and just I'm gonna come in and direct this and find the shots and blah blah. It's beginning to end script to every last bit of the mix and delivery. It's about the entire process, and that's something that's always exciting for me to work with. It's like I said, been on a lot of films, and I don't have that same experience on every single project. So.
And Tiffany, what was it like for you to sort of learn about and also explore the sort of Doomy culture that the movie takes part in, and what kind of research, like how did you sort of learn about that for yourself?
I talked to a lot of people. I talked to a lot of guys and girls who've been around karaoke in general, and I also did experience doing that for a night, which was really unpleasant and uncomfortable.
Well, now you made me feel bad for even asking. But what was it? I mean, what about it was? I mean, maybe it's obvious. What was unpleasant and uncomfortable about it? Like, what did you feel you learned from doing that, even for a night?
I didn't think it was necessary for me to do that. I thought that the only thing that it really helped with was the protocols of from step A to step B, or exactly what the process was. But as far as what Casey would have felt going to a karaoke, not wanting to do this job in particular, and being treated by these men, I didn't think that you needed to go through that to experience that or to understand that.
And now, Alex, can you tell me a little bit just about shooting in Koreatown? Like, was it difficult just securing locations, finding the karaoke place to use? Like, what was that experience like to be shooting actually in Koreatown?
It was very hard. Probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done. Yeah, I mean, Koreatown, it's a very busy place. A lot of people, especially store owners, a lot of places that we wanted to shoot in, they kind of just mind their own business. They don't want to be disturbed, especially trying to find a karaoke place, because what we're showing, what the movie portrays is, like the underground part of these karaoke places. So they don't want more attention brought to them. Luckily we found a great spot that we were able to use full access to the karaoke, all the different rooms. But yeah, it was definitely hard. Logistically, it was pretty crazy to shoot there. But no, I mean, we felt that, and just wanted to shoot make it predominantly in K-Town, because it's kind of like a character of its own, the setting of especially Los Angeles Koreatown. So.
And Teddy, the scenes of the movie when you're pushing that bed down the street, it makes me nervous just watching it. And what was it like shooting those scenes in particular?
Really stressful. We didn't have permits for that. But I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but one time, I rolled it right past the cop, and the cop just looked straight past me. So I don't know what that says about our local police force, but I don't know. And the camera was across the street, so that guy should have said something. I don't know. It was really weird. But yeah, it was really stressful. We didn't have permits, like Alex said. We had the van that housed the bed, and then the way that we did it was they would set up the shot, they would know what the frame was, and then basically they would be like, okay, let's go. Alex and a couple of the PAs would roll up in the van, pull out the bed, drop it down. They got it
It was
down
like a
pretty
NASCAR.
quick.
It was like a NASCAR.
Yeah,
We're like, "Alright, let's go."
yeah. But then they did it. They got it down, and then I would start rolling, and then they would start rolling, and then all of a sudden you would hear cut. Okay, good. Let's go. And then all of a sudden the van would pull straight up in front of me, and the PAs would come out again, and then put the bed back in the van, and then take off, and then we would go to some other corner, and we just did that for like half a day. And I think Alex told me that it was only going to be one day, but it ended up being like 4.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was dressed as Chris.
Well, tell me more about that, Alex. What is it that kind of, I mean, the idea that, you have to get these specific shots, they probably would be very hard to permit, so you're doing them without it. We can save space here, we can talk about these things. So how do you kind of like pull that off? And like, is that a tough conversation even to have with Justin as far as like what you can and cannot accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, when I first read that on the script, I was like, "Are you crazy?" And then, I mean, for us, it was, we just knew it would be a powerful shot, but of course, we wanted to be as safe as possible. So we did all the precautionary measures in terms of making sure, like assembly and taking it on and off, and in hindsight, and actually not even hindsight doing it, it was definitely not the safest scene to shoot. But for us, it was such an important part of the story, kind of showing both Carrie's role and then just being able to see parts of Cape Town through that. I thought it was important. But yeah, I mean, for us, and what Teddy said too, it's since it's a safe space, like there were a lot of scenes that that weren't permitted, and then there were cops that kind of drove by, and I was very surprised at how not lenient, how just they didn't want to deal with us. I feel like they're used to a lot of film crews trying to shoot, and I mean, we were on like First Street Bridge, and I was like, look out. There were like 3 cops that drove by for one thing, and I was like, oh shit. None of them stopped. They just kept running. I was like, alright, cool. We'll just keep rolling too.
And Alan, are you ever surprised when you see the footage kind of after a day like that, how it sort of like comes back and looks like when you're sort of shooting stuff a little bit run and gun like that? What does it end up looking like when you get the footage back?
I mean, it's definitely impressive. Not just the content that's been acquired on this film, but also the quantity. Especially being a lower budget film, there's certainly a lot of bang in what was captured, which generally lends to a lot more flexibility in the post process to be able to really find that movie. But I mean, there was just the amount that was shot was quite impressive. Plus, all that production got away with, especially knowing that most of the film was acquired on a single lens. They only used the longer lens when they needed a shoot from across the street. So yeah, it's really impressive the breadth of content that was acquired, just especially the way it was acquired as well.
And Tiffany, can you talk just a little bit about how you came to the part? How did you get cast in the movie? What did it mean to you to have the lead role in a movie like this?
So how I got it was Alex posted something on Facebook. It was like a Facebook group, and then saying that they were looking for an actress. So I submitted some photos, and then when I auditioned, it was actually with Teddy. And we auditioned it a couple times, and then after I got it, I was just really proud that this is also my first movie, and I was just really excited that I was able to hopefully both of our hard work showed off.
And Teddy, how did you come to the movie?
Justin found an audition tape I did 5 years ago, which was the last time I acted. And he introduced himself, and then he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna send you the script. You could read it over, and then we'll meet." And then when I met him, it was for a screen test, which the screen test was basically, I didn't have any lines. It was basically a camera test for himself. And then afterwards, I was like, should I audition or something? And then he was like, nah, you're good. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah, sure. exactly how it happened. I was so confused by it. Yeah.
And Alex, you have anything to add about the casting process? And did you have to look at a lot of potential actors in casting the movie?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at a good amount. I think for Teddy, you know, Justin had asked a director friend of his, and that's how we found Teddy audition tape. And for him, you know, he was looking more of like, you know, the right look for each character, and that's why, you know, they had such a long rehearsal time as well, because once he found the people that, you know, he knew fit the part, and he was just alright. And then, you know, from then on, it was like just them working on it, and, you know, being comfortable playing, you know, being brother sister, which is really that way that they got there. So.
Because Tiffany, this part asks just so much of you. Specifically, I'm thinking of the scenes towards the end, that final nightclub scene when you have to attack that guy. What was that scene in particular like for you, sort of summon that kind of rage and to act out like that?
I think the one in the karaoke club, that one was the hardest as far as like technicality, because like we only had a certain amount of like sugar bottles to like hit, and then like it had to be at the right angle, and obviously there was a lot of like stunt stuff going on. So that took 2 days to film. Actually but for me, like that wasn't the hardest, I guess, to film. It was just more harder, like choreographing everything and then making sure that, you know, we got what we needed and that everyone was safe.
And so what was hardest for you?
I don't think there was any particular day that was specifically hard. I think it was all hard just because the heaviness of this character. You know, I had to stay in that for the whole time, and it was also hard because obviously I'm really lucky that I get to play and I get to act for this character, but there are people who are actually living this reality, and so I have to give it the respect that it does.
And Teddy, were there any things that were emotionally tough for you?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, this is like putting me on the spot. I guess you want me to answer like specifically which things?
I mean, if something comes to mind. Well, let me put it another way. Why do you think that your character responds kind of the way that he does? The fact that, you know, Tiffany's character feels like she has to kind of stay and try to make it work with their dad, however, and your character feels like, I'm out of here. He's always like kind of like pulling the other way. And what is, for you, how did you kind of like rationalize that decision or the way that he responded to their situation?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think it's resentment at Carrie's dad for basically, you know, being in his eyes a loser. You know, in Korean culture, I said this to somebody yesterday, like, because we were talking about Korean movies, and she was explaining about how like a lot of Korean movies are like, they have archetypes, like, you know, the son, the troubled son, the dad who can't really like get his shit together, blah blah blah. And I basically told her, like, you know, we're Koreans for a large part we are our father's sons. You know, we hold them as like this model of what we are going to be or what we should be. And so I think there's a lot of that. Sorry, this is getting really long-winded. I'm getting really self-conscious about it now. But it's, but yeah, I think it's resentment. It's anger at himself for not being able to pull the family together himself. So many things. It's, you know, insecurity. It's definitely an inferiority complex. I don't know. This is a whole thing. Sorry.
It's all right.
I wish I could explain it better.
Because, Tiffany, for you, like, how did you kind of rationalize, or how did you feel about the way that your character responds? The fact that she does stick around and she is always trying to like make it work no matter what.
I think, yeah, especially, I mean, for this story, you know, she comes from a family of immigrants, but it's just in general, I guess, family, and sometimes with particular Asian American culture, there's a sense of devotion, loyalty that you have towards your parents for, sacrificing everything that I have to come here for you to have a better life. And so for Casey, I think she really wants to keep her family together in the last days of her dad's life. And so I think that is definitely important
And do you feel like in those final few scenes, when she goes to the quinceañera with the valet, and then also just that final scene between the two of you, in your mind, has she been set free somehow? Like, do you think she's going to be able to kind of like move on from this episode in her life?
Yeah, I think towards the end, especially with the karaoke scene with all the girls coming through, it's very symbolic of, not just Casey realizing that, there's more to it than the box that she kind of put herself in, but also just knowing that there's a community out there, and with Octavio's help and with her brother's help, that she realizes that she needs to, or she could think more, like there's more to it.
Because one of the things that I find so exciting about both of Justin's movies is that for me, as someone who's an outsider to, his culture, that I don't know the Asian immigrant experience or Asian American experience, I'm seeing things on screen in his movies that I'm not seeing anywhere else. And I'm just would really want to know from all four of you, like, what does it mean to you to have Justin kind of putting these things on screen and showing things that we're, someone like myself and that other audiences maybe aren't able to see. Alex, how do you feel about that?
I think it's amazing. Like growing up, there were such few films that had, Asian American faces, and now these past few years there have been so many, and we're just trying to do our part and kind of tell our stories. And the way Justin does it in such like an honest way, like it's very specific but yet universal. In terms of for Gook and for Miss Purple, like they all base sort of on some relationship dynamic through family and trying to just kind of survive in this world. So I think it's great that people that are of all colors can relate to these kind of films.
Alan, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's the goal is telling a human story. Not necessarily segregated by lines of race, class, anything else. Gook was exploration, largely an exploration of a father-son sort of journey. This one being siblings, also father-daughter. Next one being more, mother-son. These are all, very human, very, regardless of the diversity of the cast, values that we're hoping in a movie can relate to anyone. Aside from the setting of this movie and certain cultural aspects of it, the idea was to generally kind of bring true more about the connections between the people and based on the familial connections versus race and anything else.
Did you want to add anything?
I think it's great that you're able to see, a film from this perspective, that you're able to observe how she's feeling, even though there's not necessarily too much dialogue that you need to understand what's going on. And it just shows that, even though maybe you don't understand her culture where she's from, but you understand how she's feeling because the struggle and the pain is the same, that, you see your own struggles or pain through the story because you felt those feelings before, but it's just that everyone's struggles, everyone's roots are different.
Yeah, sure. Like I'm sort of similar with Alan in the sense that when I was growing up, the books I would read, the movies I would watch, I was James Bond. You know what I mean? Like I was Atticus Finch. I was the heroes that I read about. And like race and maybe because I was too young or maybe because I had a lot of white friends. I don't know. I didn't see myself as like the Asian guy playing that guy, and so what I really appreciate about Justin, even though these are very, these are, I guess, quote unquote Korean American or Asian American stories, I hope and what Justin is definitely trying to do, we've had like extensive conversations about this, is trying to make it so like it's not necessarily like just an Asian American story anymore. It's something that hopefully, siblings can relate to just by watching them, or like, oh yeah, I get that. Just, I know, oh, my sister's like that, or my brother's like that, or our relationships like, or our fights are like that, even if it is just for like that split second, right? Yeah, I'm hoping that eventually in due time people will see it the same way that I grew up watching and reading these books. Yeah.
And we have a few minutes for some questions from the audience. Anyone? Right here.
I want to make a comment that the music supports the storyline in a very, very great manner. It spoke almost Asian, because Asians don't say a lot. There were some lines that weren't there, but the music made up for it. Was that intentional?
Alex, maybe you can talk about that a little bit, the music in the film and the extent to which...
You're talking about the music replacing the dialogue or in certain scenes?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we were fortunate to work with the same composer that we worked on with Gook, and then when Justin and composer Roger were first trying to figure out the soundtrack, I think Justin told them he wanted to be very melancholic but repetitive throughout, and he wanted because the movie is very dialogue sparse, so he wanted the music to portray a lot of the emotions that the characters were feeling. So.
1000%.
Oh, towards the back there?
Yeah, I enjoyed the film greatly. Question for the daughter, there's a comment toward the end of the film where you say, those guys at the karaoke reminded me of Dad. Does that mean that Dad was sexually abusive?
No.
There's a follow-up line right after that of just, she sees what they all find that they're missing in their lives, that they all wanted a little something more, and different people go to different places to find what that more is, and that was a big part of that connection with. It's everyone looks for a little bit of something from their parents, from their family, and that was it's part of that regret of not being able to fulfill this, but I can maybe seeing the need in other people somewhat fill the gap, which does kind of allude to the first part of your question, but that was not the intent.
And we have one more question here.
I have a statement and a question. One is for Teddy. Teddy, in reference to the permits, and you were worried about the police department, what have you, they're pretty much aware of everything that's going on, because in LA, all they see is film. So when they saw you, they have eyes everywhere. So when they actually saw it, they said, oh, they're filming. So that's why it's not that they're not there to protect and honor and whatever to you. Now, the other question that I have is for the producer. I know that you start with a moderate amount of money, how much you want to use. That's only if you want to answer that question. And because maybe it was a moderately priced film, I'm assuming that you didn't kickstart anything, did you? Or did you have a certain amount of money that you wanted to do and you went beyond that bracket? Or
And the
did you
question has to
manage
do with
that?
some of the funding for the movie. Did you all crowdfund it all?
Yeah, so we crowdfunded. We use the same kind of strategy that we use for Gook 2, is we raise production financing, so how much it would cost to shoot the movie. Obviously, we were continuously fundraising while we were shooting the movie, because costs add up and stuff. But after we shot it, we did a fundraiser. We did a Kickstarter campaign, which went great. A lot of support from the community, and that helped with the post-production costs, music costs, festival costs too. So.
And you mentioned to me it was actually during your crowdfunding campaign. That's how you found your composer in the first place.
From Gook, yeah, we found the composer, one of when we did our Kickstarter video for Goop, Justin was like, okay, we're in post-production phase now, editing, composing music, and then someone reached out and recommended Roger to be the composer, and then 3 years later we've done 2 films. So.
That's great. And that's where we're gonna have to wrap it up tonight. Please everyone join me in thanking